In the video I did a few months back on not giving up on yourself, I talk about how it's of the utmost importance that if ever you encounter some kind of a setback in life that makes you feel like you need to give up on all your future goals you've set for yourself, you can't give in to that, because in order to get there, you have to try in the first place. But if you don't believe that it's possible and that you're capable of getting there, then you never will try in the first place, and you've pretty much guaranteed it's never going to happen. But there's a difference between that and believing that by nature you're just born special, above average, that all the rules that apply to everybody else are rules that you're exempt from. And all the good things that you want to happen to you in life are just going to happen magically so long as you have hope, and all the bad things are only going to happen to everybody else. And I can say from experience, having thought that way, that it's just wrong. It's just not true. But I think this is worth noting because I think it's tempting for all of us to believe that we're special, that we're somehow destined for greatness, in quotes. But like I said, through experience, I've seen that that's just not true. I'm just an ordinary guy and there's nothing special about me. And the same holds true for everybody else around me. So in this video, I want to talk through at least two of the most notable consequences of this outlook to showcase not only why you have to come to grips with the fact that you're just an ordinary person, but also how you can use that to your advantage. So the first consequence is you're just not going to be prepared for those invariable hardships that you're going to face in life. Because again, the idea is you think you're exempt. None of that stuff is ever going to happen to you. But then when it does, you're going to be thrown off balance. You're going to be shocked at the idea that this terrible thing could be happening to you. And furthermore, you're not going to have a way out because you didn't anticipate this tough situation to begin with. So the remedy here is, of course, to anticipate that these things will happen. You will encounter financial difficulties and conflict, disrespect, rejection, you name it. So have a few contingency plans in place so you know what your options are in those situations, and also be mentally prepared for it. Understand that these things will happen, and again, you're not special. So you're going to be tough enough to face whatever it is you have to, instead of just assuming that those things are never going to happen. So for example, when I first got out of the Army, I thought that I was just going to ride off into the sunset and life was going to be 10 times better. But then when I got to one of my first corporate jobs, I realized I was just an ordinary guy that sits at a desk and clocks in and out, is dealing with the world's worst boss and just doing the same thing over and over again every single day. And furthermore, I realized that unlike what I originally thought, which was that these things could only happen to other people and not me, and that I was somehow exempt, instead the reality was the opposite. They could happen to me just as easily as anybody else. But if I had anticipated that, then I possibly would have stayed in the Army a little bit longer, or found a different job where I might not have had to deal with those things, or just been mentally prepared for it and saved myself a lot of heartache. Now, the second consequence is ironically the same as when you give up on yourself, which is that you're just not going to put any effort or work towards achieving your goals, because again, you're assuming that they're just going to magically come to fruition. Whether it's your dream job or you're meeting your significant other or something like that, kind of like in the movies where that stuff does magically fall into your lap. Like I've said before, the movies and real life are two very different things. You should not take your cues from the former as to what the latter is going to be like. So the remedy here is also, again, very simple, and that is, while you have to assume that your goals are possible to achieve, you also have to maintain that you're going to have to put the work in to actually get there. So as a different example, when I was in high school, I certainly thought that I was special, at least in the first few years, and that I was destined for greatness, and that regardless of how I did, even if I didn't care about a class or I let my grades slip a little bit, I would still end up getting into my dream college because I was destined for it. But as the years went on, eventually it came to be apparent that I did not get into the schools that I wanted to get into, whereas many other people did. Whereas if I had maintained the whole time that, look, you're not special. It's possible for you to get there if you work hard, but you have to actually care about every single one of your classes, regardless of how much the material interests you, then I might have had a much better shot. But in the end, I just had average grades and a not very impressive resume, which is why I didn't make it. And that was the first time that I first started to realize that, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not as special as I think I am, and I'm just the same as everybody else. I'm just as ordinary as them, and so I have to work just as hard as them. So to conclude, again, the point is you have to come to grips with the fact that you're just an ordinary person like everybody else, instead of assuming that you were somehow born better than them. So if you see yourself in a certain position in life in the future, then you have to roll up your sleeves and start at the bottom like everybody else, instead of assuming that it's somehow beneath you. Even if that means starting your career in a retail store, which is how I started. Or if you want to meet your significant other, then you have to actually put yourself out there and take the risks of approaching people and being social, instead of just sitting at home and playing video games all the time and assuming that you're just going to magically run into the love of your life at the grocery store someday, like you see it in the movies all the time. So I hope this helps. Let me know if you have anything to add or if you have any other thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.